Okay, we are live, and I'm just checking to see if we have, oh, we got all kinds of attendees. Um, Lots of people here. So if you guys can hear us, please type in the chat that you can hear us. And if you can, we are ready to rock. Yeah, they're just coming in now. There's 19 attendees so far.
Okay, perfect.
All right, let me get back to chat. So far, they're not typing that they can hear us. Somebody please type. There's a bit of a delay between when we say things, they hear it and respond.
Okay.
I just want to make sure they can hear me. I'm going to type in the chat. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay, thank you, Naoma. Okay, I don't have to tell you, don't have to do that. All right. So welcome everybody. Hopefully you checked your emails today and you got a bunch of product sheets that Carolyn forwarded to me to send to all of you. Oh, look, they're all coming in now. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. She can hear me in Calgary. Thank you, Janice. Okay. So when I sent out the email today, there were a couple of emails that wouldn't go into my constant contact. I don't know if there was something, what was the story there. So there's at least 2 people who signed up for this who did not get the email. If you are one of those people, please just email me directly at info@digestorsdilemma.com, and I will send it out to you after we finish the broadcast here. Okay, so with no further ado, I would like to introduce Carolyn Farquhar, and she's a registered holistic nutritionist and director of education at RENEWLIFE Canada. She specializes in digestive care and cleansing, which might be another topic we could book to have her come and speak to us about, and has been educating audiences through seminars, TV, radio appearances, and we are very pleased to have her here. So welcome, Carolyn, and I will take over.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So I just want to say one more thing to the audience. If you have any questions during this, just type them in the chat, and I'll read them out for Carolyn to answer. Okay, sorry, Carolyn. Forgot that part.
Okay. There's a couple of errors. Some people didn't get the sheets, and hopefully the video will kick in for you, Caitlin. But at least you can listen and follow along, hopefully. So tonight we're going to talk about probiotics. And I think probiotics is a really big field right now, and you're hearing about probiotics and everything. But what we're going to talk about tonight are some things that will help you when you're working with your clients. So why are probiotics important, and why are they good for your immunity? How do we get them as infants? Why yogurt is not enough? We'll talk about that because I think you probably hear that a lot. And then we'll talk about recommending probiotics for certain conditions, and then we'll look at things you want to look for in a probiotic, and we'll go through specifically the probiotic products that RENEWLIFE carries. Because we have quite a few, RENEWLIFE is just a digestive care and cleansing company. That's all we do, and we specialize in it, and we are the leaders in probiotics. The Ultimate Flora Critical Care is the best-selling probiotic in North America. So we do kind of have a lock on that market, which is great, and I can tell you from personal experience it's changed my life. So without further ado, I'm going to put the presentation up now, and hopefully you guys can see it okay. Okay, now Lorraine, you're going to have to tell me if I can't see any of the chat now, but can people see that okay?
I can't see it, so if I can't see it, they can't see it.
Okay, let's try this. Can you see that?
No.
Okay. Can you try to load it on your end?
Yeah, I don't have it. This worked perfectly when we tested it on Friday, lady.
Oh, wait a minute. It's probably me. I have to do screen share, don't I?
Yes, you do.
That would be it. That little green button over there. Bear with me for 1 second. Where is it? Oh, there we go. This might be it. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me for 1 sec. Okay, so why isn't it showing that? I just had the presentation up and now it's not showing. Okay, let me just go back in and open it up again. Sorry for this, guys.
Did you have it open before you logged on?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And now it's not showing. So let me just, I'll pull it up again because I'll just do it that way.
Okay, so I have typed in the chat the email address for anyone who didn't get the slides. I see Janice has seen that, so that she can get it.
Excellent.
And I'll just talk while you're doing this. So,
Sure.
RENEWLIFE probiotics saved my life too. So people,
oh, that's good to hear.
well, so people who know me know that I talk a lot about RENEWLIFE, and it's basically because, oh, here we go. It solved a major problem for me as well. There we go. There it is.
Phew. All right. So do you want to continue with your story before I start?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
We don't want me to get into that.
Okay. So renew your focus on your health. So that's pretty straightforward. And we'll just talk about human intestinal bacteria because I think a lot of people are shocked and amazed when they find out that we have 10 times more bacteria in our bodies than we have cells in our bodies. So we have 100 trillion bacteria and only about 10 trillion cells. And there are about 300 to 1,000 different species of bacteria that live in the gut. So that we're talking about the gut, like mostly the small and large intestine. And current researchers are now showing that that number can be many thousand different species. They are still tracking all the different probiotics that are found in the body, so there's more and more research being done every day. Now, bacteria grow naturally in the intestinal tract, and they aid in the nourishment and defense not only of the digestive tract, but of the entire body. And probiotics literally means for life. So in adults, there's really not a whole lot in the mouth. So there's about 10,000 to 10 million bacteria. Not a whole lot. In the stomach, there's practically nothing. So 0 to 1,000. In the upper small intestine, you start getting a little more. So 100,000 to 1 million bacteria. The lower small intestine, about 10 million to 1 trillion bacteria. But in the large intestine is where most of them live. So between 100 billion and 99 trillion. And the reason that's such a huge range is it really depends on the health of the person and their microbial makeup throughout their entire life. So interesting facts is that bacteria will make up about 60 to 80% of the dry mass of feces, and approximately 3 to 4 pounds of bacteria will live in the gut. So that's about the size and weight of a brick. So the next time you pick up a brick, just think about that for a sec. So as infants, this is really, really important, and I really wish that my mom knew this when I was born. The intestinal system of a fetus is sterile. There is no bacteria present whatsoever, and I'm sure you guys probably already knew that. Now, the vaginal delivery introduces the baby to numerous strains of bacteria. So they're going to get that first dose of probiotics from the mom as they're going through the birth canal. So vaginally born infants have well-established intestinal bacteria, usually about 1 month after birth. But cesarean-born infants are not introduced to the same type or amount of bacteria as the vaginal-born infants. So the intestinal flora may be disturbed and not well established even after 6 months in cesarean-born infants. So that's really important to note if women have had cesareans, or if they're choosing to have a cesarean section, they need to be aware of the fact that the baby is not going to get that first dose of probiotics as it goes through the birth canal. Now, on top of that, we have breastfeeding. So there's a lot of research that shows that breastfed infants initially establish a different bacterial composition than formula-fed infants. And when viable counts from 1-week-old infants were compared, bifidobacteria occurred in larger numbers in feces of breastfed than in formula-fed infants. And the incidence of C. difficile, which is the pathogen that causes really bad diarrhea, was higher, so between 49 and 66% in formula-fed than breastfed infants, which was only between 6 and 20. So you can see that it really does make a very, very big difference. So if you have a baby that was cesarean born and for whatever reason mom couldn't breastfeed, these are the kids that are going to be behind the 8 ball. They're the ones that are going to have compromised immune systems. They're going to be the ones susceptible to the ear, nose, throat infections, the ones that tend to be sickly throughout their life. So it is really important that they have probiotics early in life. Get those probiotics in there so that they have a really good chance of building up a good, strong immune system. Now, we're not all the same, and our intestinal bacteria composition is based on our environment, our experiences, and our exposure. So the bacterium that's established within your intestinal tract within the first 2 years of your life, 2 years, it's what you're going to have into adulthood. And this is what's called your microbial footprint. And this is going to dictate the difference between someone who has strong intestinal health and someone who does not. So we'll talk a little more about that later, and especially how it affects the immune system. So why are bacteria important? They do a whole lot of things in the body, and I've told people over and over again, if I were to step into a health food store and I was only ever allowed to choose one supplement, it would be a probiotic 100% of the time. And this is why. So they help synthesize vitamins such as B1, B9, B6, and vitamin K. They help produce digestive enzymes and help in the absorption of calcium, magnesium, and iron. They produce short-chain fatty acids, which would be butyrate, valerate, and propionate, and they're used as the main source of energy to produce healthy colon cells. And the short-chain fatty acids also increase the gut's absorption of water, reduce counts of damaging bacteria, and encourage the growth of good bacteria. So these short-chain fatty acids also help with things like leaky gut. They improve the strength and function of the lining of our colon, and that's the mucosal barrier that helps to prevent harmful organisms and toxins in the intestinal tract from passing into the bloodstream. It helps to control inflammation in the body. It stimulates and supports the immune system by helping our bodies recognize and defeat harmful bacteria or pathogens we may ingest. We'll talk a bit about that in a minute. They maintain regularity and health of the bowel, so if anybody's got issues with constipation and with diarrhea, one of the best things that you can do is to get them on a probiotic. And they also help with detoxification. And recently this week I was reading something about how they help to get rid of heavy metals in the body. So these guys do a whole lot within our bodies, and I like to think of them as soldiers. They are our protectors. They are going to form those barriers so that things don't get into the bloodstream, and they just do a whole lot for us. So I think it's really, really important that people be supplementing with probiotics every day if they're not eating the right foods. So we hear that 70 to 80% of our immune system is found in our gut. Well, what does that mean? Well, the gut is the body's primary defense. So take a virus, for example. Your friendly bacteria will fight off that virus on 3 levels. So in level 1, while the virus is still in your intestinal tract, the good bacteria will surround it and neutralize it. If it gets past that stage and goes to level 2, the good bacteria will actually form a barrier along your intestinal lining to prevent the virus from passing through the bloodstream. Again, think of those little soldiers. They're standing guard along your intestinal tract so it doesn't get into your bloodstream. And on level 3, if it gets past that, gets into your bloodstream, The friendly bacteria will actually communicate with your body. They'll crosstalk, they'll send a message to your body to produce substances that neutralize the virus before it causes damage. So this is why probiotics are absolutely crucial to immunity. So I always tell people, if you're not going to take one every day, at least take it before kids and before you go back to school and work at the end of the summer. Because that's when we happen to get the cold and flu that hangs around. And we call it cold and flu season, but when you technically think about it, it's really back to school. So that's a really good time to introduce it. If people are hesitant to do it every day, at least get them to do it while they're starting to go back to school and work, when their stress is high and when they happen to be subject to more germs. So dysbiosis is a decline in beneficial microorganisms and a corresponding increase in pathogenic bacteria. And the causes of dysbiosis are multiple. So there's antibiotic exposure. And that's not just the antibiotics that we would take if we got a prescription. It's in our water, in our food. You've heard about antibiotics in animals' feed, or maybe they're being injected with antibiotics. It's also in our water supply. So these are things that we need to be aware of, that we may not be taking them, but we're probably still exposed to them to some degree. Chronic intestinal disease, so things like IBS, Crohn's, colitis, they certainly set off dysbiosis for sure. Things like Candida parasites will definitely set up that problem. Dietary factors, so sugar, alcohol, simple carbohydrates, they feed bad bacteria, which of course can set off dysbiosis. Stress, for so many reasons, stress isn't good, but this is another one. Antacids, they'll alter the pH in the body, which can certainly set up dysbiosis as well. Lifestyle factors, and of course aging. Just naturally as we age, we start to decline our populations of good bacteria. So long-term effects of dysbiosis. Well, we can get intestinal inflammation, which leads to leaky gut. And of course, once you have leaky gut, it leads to a whole host of other problems. Hormone imbalance and estrogen dominance, irritable bowel syndrome, liver dysfunction. Now, here's an interesting one with liver dysfunction, and I found out the hard way. I seem to be getting so many things that I talk about. I used to have Candida really, really badly for years. And once I got rid of it, I started learning more about Candida, what it was, and how it affected my body. And one of the things that Candida does is it gives off a mycotoxin called acetaldehyde. And acetaldehyde is very, very toxic to the body. And what Candida does, what your liver does, is it will actually convert the acetaldehyde to alcohol because it's less toxic to the body. So, in fact, I became a walking distillery. And I went to my doctor probably about 3 or 4 years later with another issue. And so we had my blood tested and all this stuff. And it turned out that I had fatty liver. And I was in total shock. But I realized that it was because of all of the damage that was done by the Candida and the fact that my liver was converting the acetaldehyde into alcohol and causing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And kids as young as the age of 2 are getting these types of diseases, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic cirrhosis, because of the amount of fructose and other sugars that are in their diet. So these are things that until you make the connection, it's not something you would normally think of. So when you're getting these types of things come through your practice, just keep those things in mind. Now, dysbiosis can also cause food sensitivities, celiac disease, chronic constipation and diarrhea, Candida and yeast overgrowth, and of course, overall, it's going to compromise your immune system. So what's the solution? Well, the great news is that we can increase the friendly bacteria in our bodies by adding certain foods to our diet. So yogurt, buttermilk, kefir, miso, tempeh, sauerkraut, and other fermented foods. And I'm talking clean sources, organic sources, not the yogurts that you get in the stores that are full of sugars and dyes and flavors. Good quality organic yogurt. But a lot of people are not eating enough of these foods, and they're not eating the prebiotics, which are things like fiber, which feeds probiotics. So a lot of people are getting maybe 10, 12 grams of fiber a day. An adult should be getting between 30 and 40 grams a day. And kids should, you take their age and you add 5. That's how many grams of fiber a child should get in a day. So a lot of people are not eating enough of these types of foods and not eating the prebiotics to feed the probiotics. So they should supplement with probiotics. So one of the things I like to use as a visual is when people say, oh, I eat yogurt, I get enough from my yogurt. I'll hold up a little yogurt container and I will say, would you rather eat 50 of these in a day or take 1 capsule of the Ultimate Flora 50 billion? Because that's approximately how much the ratio is. So it kind of then it sits in their head like, wow, that's a lot of yogurt I have to eat. I might as well take it in a capsule and be guaranteed the amount that's in the capsule. So it would be beneficial for everyone to take a daily probiotic and consider it like a multivitamin for your gut. So that's a really easy way of presenting it to your clients. Now, there's a lot of different probiotics on the market, and I'm going to get into a lot of the questions. I travel across the country, and I do these lectures across the country, so I've had a lot of feedback with stores, and I've heard lots of different questions. So I'm going to try to go over them and answer them as an aside to you guys today, just so that you have the answers when you come up across these questions. So things you want to look for when purchasing probiotics: you want to look for culture count, multiple strains, delivery system, potency at time of expiration, and more bifidobacteria than lactobacillus for certain conditions such as constipation, and if there are issues in the lower colon. Because of the 99 trillion bacteria that live in the colon, a lot of them, most of them, are bifidobacteria. So, culture count. There is strength in numbers. So most people would benefit from taking at least 50 billion bacteria daily, and the strongest amount allowed by Health Canada is 100 billion for those with serious digestive disorders. Pardon me. So a lot of people say, wow, you know, that's a lot. Is it going to be too much for me? If someone is really, really sensitive, the worst that's going to happen if they take too much is they'll get loose stools. And if that happens, for a couple of days, that's normal while everything's trying to sort itself out down there. There's only so much real estate in the digestive tract. So the good guys are starting to crowd out the bad guys. So for the first couple of days, people might get loose stools, and that's normal. But if it continues, then it's too strong for them, and then they would need to back off to a lower dose. But for most people, most adults, certainly 50 billion is a good amount. Now, multiple strains, we're not all the same. We each have that unique microbial footprint, and that's based on our environment, our experiences, and our exposure. So it's important to take a probiotic that has at least 6 to 10 strains for adults. That way you'll get the benefits even if not every strain is present in your own gut. Another question I get often is, do the probiotics fight in the capsule? No, we don't choose the ones that are antagonistic to each other, obviously. Think of it like construction workers going to a construction site. They're not going to duke it out with each other. They're going to the site to do their jobs. And each probiotic, and you'll see the different strains after, they all have their own job within the body. So they're not going to duke it out in the capsule. But the other thing that we do is we add fructooligosaccharides to our capsules, and that is a food source for the probiotics because we want them to still be alive by the time someone takes it when they buy it. So, resident versus transient strains. So, think of it also as human versus transient strains. So, resident or human. So resident strains are strains that are found in the digestive tracts of most people, and they repopulate. So they reside in us. That's a good way to remember that. They will repopulate. Now, transient strains are found outside of the human intestinal tract, but they're extremely beneficial in maintaining its health as they pass through. So transient strains live symbiotically on plants, including many vegetables, if they've not been destroyed by pesticides. So we use organic plant material to get our transient strains. So they don't reestablish in the intestinal tract. They'll live there for about 3 or 4 days. So it's necessary to consume them by either eating organic vegetables or taking probiotic supplements every day. And one of the most important and researched bacterial strains is the transient strain Lactobacillus plantarum. And this vegetal source bacterium is the most effective to take during or after antibiotic use, as it's the only one resistant to antibiotics. And we use a lot of the Lactobacillus plantarum in our 100 billion ultra potent formula, and that's the one we would suggest if someone has been on antibiotics or is currently taking antibiotics. But I'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, delivery system. Probiotics are only going to work if they actually get to where they need to go. So most bacteria cannot survive in the high acid environment of the stomach. And even so-called acid-resistant strains, they may be resistant to a pH of 4, which is considered acid, but they'll degrade at the pH of the stomach, which can be anywhere between 1 and 5, depending on a lot of factors. So taking a probiotic with enteric coating ensures that it gets to the small intestine safely. So we enteric coat all of our probiotics except for the kids' ones, because one's a powder and one's a chewable. But all of our probiotics are enteric coated because we actually want the probiotics to get to where they need to go. So enteric coating works by breaking down when it hits a certain pH. So if you were to take any of the probiotics that we have and you were to put it into vinegar, it wouldn't break down. It wouldn't break down for days. And the reason for that is that it's not going to degrade until it hits a more alkaline environment, which is going to be the top of the small intestine. It's going to start to break down, and then they're going to start to proliferate throughout the intestinal tract. The transient strains will stay there for about 3 or 4 days, and the resident strains are going to start to repopulate. So that's how enteric coating works, and that's why it is important to get a probiotic with enteric coating, because you're guaranteed that the probiotics you're taking are actually going to get to where they need to go and not die off in the stomach. And for that reason, if a probiotic is enteric coated, it doesn't matter when you take it. So some people say take it with food, take it away from food. There's a lot of debate and there's good arguments on both sides. But if it's enteric coated, it doesn't matter because the stomach acid is not going to affect it. Which brings us to this next slide. I forgot about this. Okay, so that is one of the most common questions that I get is how do I take it? When do I take it? So I always say, if it's enteric coated, when are you going to remember to take it? Some people remember before they go to bed. And ideally, I do think, my gut tells me, that taking probiotics before bed is good. It helps you with good bowel movements when you wake up in the morning. So, you know, if it's an either, you might want to suggest that people take it before they go to bed. All right. So guaranteed potency. Oh, sorry. Let me go back for 1 sec. So if it's not protected by enteric coating, I'm sorry, I didn't get into that. You should take it after a meal when the stomach acid is most neutral. But I've heard on the other side of a coin, some people say take it before you eat so it gets through your stomach more quickly. So really, I see both sides to that. So no pun intended, go with your gut. So guaranteed potency. This is where it can be tricky. So probiotic potency should only be guaranteed at expiry, not at the time of manufacture. So the potency only matters when you take it, not when it's made. So if it does not state that the potency is available at expiry, then you really have no guarantee of what you're getting, so read your labels. All of our probiotics are guaranteed, usually our expiry dates are 2 years. So I can almost guarantee you they never stay in anybody's fridge that long. But it is 2 years. So read the labels and make sure that it does say that.
Okay, Carolyn, we have a question here.
Yes.
What is the studies showing on target delivery when reaches... Wait, sorry. This is what it says. What is the study showing on target delivery when reaches delivery? What is it? I know what she means. I think she means, you know, what ends up in the intestines.
The way that they test for that is they test the feces. So we can see what probiotics are coming out. We can see the bacteria in the feces because most of the feces is made up of dead bacteria. So that's how we can test for it. That's how we can see the potency of it and whether it's actually getting through where it needs to go. So those are they test the fecal matter. I hope that answers the question okay.
If not, just reword the question and Mary Ellen will do it again.
Okay. All right. So Now let's get into products. So this is where we get most of the questions. And RENEWLIFE, we've got multiple formulas for the whole entire family. So whatever your reason, we probably have the probiotic that's going to be right for you. So this, I'm going to go through this chart quickly, and then I'm going to go into the product knowledge sheets specifically, because that's when you're going to start seeing the strains and what the strains do in the body. So this is a really good chart if you're thinking, you know, this person has these problems and I just don't know which one to choose. This is going to really help. So the ultra potent is 100 billion. It's got 10 different strains. So 50 billion are bifido, 50 billion are lactobacillus. This is the one you're going to choose for people who have severe digestive issues, if they're using or have recently used antibiotics, or they want the strongest probiotic available. Now, on that note, should someone be taking probiotics at the same time as antibiotics? Absolutely yes. Don't take it at the same moment, but take it within the same day, so about 3 hours away from antibiotics. Will there be some die-off? There could be. But as you're pulling the bad weeds, you want to be planting the good seeds. It's all about real estate, as I said before. So you want the good bacteria to help to push out the bad stuff. You want to get that balance back again. So definitely take probiotics the same time as antibiotics. And the good thing is that pharmacists and doctors are starting to be more aware of that and are starting to prescribe that, which is really helpful. Now, the Ultimate Flora Colon Care, that's 80 billion from 10 different strains. 48 billion is bifidobacteria, 32 billion is lactobacillus. More bifidobacteria because it's the bifidobacteria that live in the colon. A good way to remember which strain lives where: bifido, big intestine; lactobacillus, little intestine. So that's a good way to remember the two. So it's great if you have inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's, colitis, IBS, even diverticulitis, or if you have things like chronic constipation or diarrhea. So that's a really good one for that. The Ultimate Flora Critical Care, this is the one that I like to call the multivitamin. This is the one that I think most people should be on every day. It's a 50 billion from 10 strains, 30 bifido, 20 lactobacillus. This is great if you have high potency daily probiotic use, if you have chronic digestive issues, or if you just want to boost your immune system. The Ultimate Flora VS, now this is where things flip a bit. So there's 50 billion total from 9 strains, but there's only 5 billion bifidobacteria and 45 billion lactobacillus. And the reason for that is the lactobacillus like to live in the urinary and vaginal tract. So this formula would not be good for someone with colon issues. It's going to be for someone with vaginal issues. And this is also one that I highly recommend for women who are pregnant. And things like strep and the bacteria that women could have in their vaginal tract that could kill a baby as is being born. This is going to go a long way to keep the vaginal tract clean and healthy and have lots of good bacteria in it. But it's also good if you have chronic yeast infections, candida overgrowth, or if you're a woman who suffers from recurring infections of the urogenital tract. Now the Blarty Max, this is one that does not require refrigeration, and that's because Saccharomyces boulardii, which is the only thing that's in this product, is actually a friendly form of yeast. It's not actually a bacteria. And so there's 10 billion Saccharomyces boulardii in each capsule. It's very, very strong. So it's great if you're at risk of developing C. difficile bacteria, if you have H. pylori overgrowth, or if you suffer from diarrhea due to bacterial infection or food poisoning. If anybody has diarrhea for any reason whatsoever, this product is incredible. I was in Africa a few years ago, came back with cholera and E. coli, and Saccharomyces boulardii literally saved my butt, and it really, really helped very quickly. I was recently in the Dominican in February, and there was a gastrointestinal outbreak at the resort. I happened to have my Saccharomyces boulardii with me. I had the Blarty Max, and I was fine. But there was a woman there. She was a nurse, and she had a 3-year-old son. And They couldn't even leave the room. It was so bad. So I said, you know what, just try this. And she came up to me the next day and she just flew and gave me a hug and she said, I can't believe it. He's a different kid. So this really helps so much for diarrhea. We'll get into it a bit more because this is one of the products that not a lot of people know about, but has huge benefits, especially things like C. diff, where, again, the issue is diarrhea. It helps with cleaving the C. difficile toxin. And, of course, H. pylori, which is one of the biggest causes of heartburn, it's really, really good for that too. So we're going to talk more about that later. Now we also have FloraSmart and FloraSmart Extra Strength. They both do not require refrigeration because the probiotics are freeze dried within the tablet's core, and it has a different sort of coating. It's still an enteric coating, but it's a little different the way we've done that, so it can be shelf stable. So they're both exactly the same strains. They've got 6 different strains, but the extra strength is 6 billion and the regular strength is 2 billion. So these are good if you're traveling, you want to protect yourself against parasites and traveler's diarrhea, or if you have digestive issues that are under control. Having said that, if people want to continue to take the high potency probiotics, they want to take the 50 billion, 80 billion, or 100 billion, they can take it with them. Probiotics will have about a 5% die-off over a 1-month period if you were to just leave it sitting on your desk, providing there is no moisture and no heat. Those are the 2 things that kill off probiotics. So if someone is traveling, they can leave it in their suitcase, no problem, especially since it's cooler underneath the plane anyway. When they get to their destination, try to pop it in the fridge, but if they don't have a fridge, again, keep it away from heat and moisture, so keep it maybe in a darker, cooler place. Keep it in the box as well, obviously the bottle, but keep the box. That gives it 1 layer of protection against the atmosphere. It gives it that extra layer. Those things are going to protect the probiotics because a lot of people want to stay on the higher potency when they go away. Now for kids, we have 2 probiotics for them. We've got the FloraBear Chewable, and that's 1 billion total from 4 strains. And it's great for children 4 and older to help boost immunity, ease mild digestive complaints, and maintain good health. And it's also great for children who have been using or are currently using antibiotics. So the thing with the kids' probiotics is we've chosen the strains specifically for what is in their digestive tract at the time. So the strains in the kids' formulas are different, a little bit different than what's in the stronger formulas. Now the Flora Baby is 4 billion total from 5 different strains. Now right now it says on the label it's great if you have a child 1 and older to help boost immunity, ease mild and moderate digestive complaints, ease constipation, maintain good health, or if you've got a child who's using or has used antibiotics. Now this Flora Baby was currently used in a study at a neonatal intensive care unit in Montreal, and they had very, very good results. And so we are petitioning the Health Canada to be able to take that 1 year and older off the label so that you can use it right from birth, because this was used on preemies and it showed very good results. So when I'm on the road and people ask me, can I give it to someone under 1? As a RENEWLIFE employee, I have to say, follow what's on the label. As a holistic nutritionist, I then step to the side and say, as a holistic nutritionist, I would say go for it, especially if a baby has been cesarean born or has not been able to breastfeed. This is going to be crucial. It is a powdered formula, so you can make it into a paste and put it on the nipple if they're breastfeeding, or you can put it in whatever formula they happen to have. Okay, so that is the end of this part of the presentation. Do we have general questions before I move specifically into the products and the strains?
I have a couple of questions. Well, if you want to type in your in the chat there, there's a bit of a delay, so I'll just ask a couple questions here. Fermented foods, are those all transient strains since they are generally plant-based, or are some of the yogurts, which are animal-based, less transient? Do you know I don't know if you know.
They can be both. There can be different strains in different formulas. So it's hard to say, like when you're looking at yogurts and stuff like that, they don't necessarily say how much of whatever probiotic is in it. Sometimes it doesn't even say what it is. When we look at the next product knowledge sheets, you'll be able to see what are transient and what are, so things, when you see resident strains would be Bifidobacterium bifidum, Bifidobacterium brev, Bifidobacterium longum, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactobacillus casei, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, and salivarius. Those are all resident strains. Those are all human strains. So the transient strains are things like Lactobacillus fermentum, Lactobacillus plantarum. So if you see it on the label, then you'll be able to tell what type of strain it is. So it's hard to know. But if it's from like vegetable sources, then you can almost be guaranteed it's going to be a transient strain.
Okay, so we got a couple of questions here from Marisa. We have, should probiotics be taken away from other supplements or vitamins?
They're not really going to affect each other. Again, it depends on someone's routine. I tend to tell people to take their probiotics at night before they go to bed, which is usually far away from any of their other supplements. So that's just, it's a good rule of thumb for the most part. It does help with healthy bowel movements, but if they can only remember to take it with a handful of vitamins in the morning, there won't be a problem.
Okay, and Karen wants to know, does freeze drying affect the quality of the probiotic?
No, actually, they like it. They like that environment. They like it cold, which is why it needs to be refrigerated. That is their natural state. So freeze drying does not harm them in any way.
Sylvia wants to know the difference between refrigerated probiotics and non-refrigerated. Is it the type of strains?
Yeah, sometimes it's the type of strains, but in our case, we use the same strains that we use in our stronger, more potent formulas, but we freeze-dried them and enteric coated them. So it really depends on how the company has processed it and whether it's still going to be alive. If it's not enteric coated and it's shelf stable, I sometimes wonder, are you really getting the potency that it's saying on the label? That's the one part that I'm not sure, and I guess you would just need to call the company and find out, how do they guarantee potency at date of expiry?
Okay, Rona would like to know that you said, or what was the bifido versus lacto balance for people with constipation versus diarrhea? She thinks you said it, but...
Well, bifido is what's in the colon. So the reason for diarrhea can be a few things. It can be caused by secretions into the bowel trying to wash things out, which isn't necessarily bad. Like when a pathogen gets into our body, the fastest way the body gets rid of it is vomiting and diarrhea. So the bifido should be the same whether it's constipation or diarrhea. So bifidobacteria is still going to balance both diarrhea and constipation, but it's going to take a different amount of time depending on what the problem is, how long they've had it, what the cause is. So the lactobacillus live mostly in the small intestine, and the bifidobacterium live in the large intestine, and most of the bacteria in our body is the bifido. And we use a lot in our formulas. It's expensive and it's not very stable, but we use a lot because it works. That's the whole point of taking a probiotic. So when you're out there in the stores, read the labels. Just because it says 50 billion doesn't necessarily mean that they're all 50 billion strains that you really want and need. You want more of the bifido unless it's a vaginal problem, in which case you want more lacto.
Okay, Rita would like to know, what type of probiotics do you recommend for cancer clients undergoing radiation?
Oh, man. I went through this with my dad. He just passed of cancer not too long ago. The doctors took him off all probiotics, and I argued and argued and argued, and they will not, they wouldn't listen. And it was really unfortunate because I really strongly believe that it could have helped him tremendously. So someone is just going to have that conversation with the oncologist, and if they still want to go ahead and do it, I would think it's a tough call. See, the reason that the doctors don't want you to take it is because they think that it's going to support your immune system. It's going to stimulate your immune system. It's going to stimulate cancer growth. But probiotics don't really do that. It's not like an herb. What it does is it recognizes the bad and it helps get rid of it, helps your body get rid of it. So it's not quite the same. So I would say, and I don't want to get myself into any trouble here, but I would say 50 billion probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And I do know people that have had cancer, and they do the 50 billion, and they also take a product of ours called Intestinal. And Intestinal helps to rebuild and repair the intestinal tract. And after my dad finished all of his chemo, I put him on Intestinal because the Intestinal helped to deal with the damage from the chemo burning his intestinal tract. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, and since I don't work for RENEWLIFE, I can tell you that absolutely probiotics, if they're willing to do it, it's between them and how they feel about the information you provide for them. But absolutely, because I've had a lot of experience with cancer patients taking probiotics, and amazing how well they respond. The doctors can't believe how much they shake off the chemo and the radiation, the negative effects, the cancer shrink. And again, they are doing other things as well, so I don't want to put it all on the probiotics, but never has been an issue. So I can take the bullet for that one, Carolyn.
Yay! I'm so glad. And, it is up to the patient, and that's the one thing that I always tell people. It is your power. Don't give it away to anybody. Make your decisions, do your research, and make the choices for yourself. My dad was older, he was terrified, and I was in the appointment when they literally said, if you don't do this, you will die. And I was just, my head almost exploded. And then they said to me, oh, you're the one in the natural health industry. And I just went, oh my God. Anyway, I digress. But, just let the people make their choice, but do make a case for probiotics and how it can help strengthen their immune system so that they can fight it. And there's a book called Cancer is a Fungus, and it's written by Dr. Simoncini in Italy, and he believes that cancer is a fungus, and he believes that it's candida, and we all know that to combat candida is to put more good probiotics in the body to get rid of the fungus, or to at least put it back into a healthy balance. So most cancer patients are riddled with it.
Yeah, and even whatever the outcome while they're going through treatment, definitely do it after treatment.
Oh, certainly, absolutely, yeah. If they won't do that, at least get them on after. That's a good point.
And the Intestinal is great too. I love it. Okay, the next question is, can the powder be used for pets?
You know what? I don't know enough about what strains are in an animal's body, but I can tell you that I've opened up the Ultimate Flora Critical Care in my cat's food when he was getting a cold, and it worked for him. He didn't get sick, and he was fine. So the problem is I don't know what strains are in an animal's body and if our strains are also going to help. I would think that certainly the plant strains would be good for them because they eat, when they go out and eat grass and stuff like that, that it wouldn't be bad. So it wouldn't be something that I would necessarily recommend, but having said that, I've tried it myself.
Okay, the next question, and if you're not comfortable answering this, I'll answer it. I've heard a lot about a product called BioK. Are you familiar with BioK? And if so, what are your thoughts on its efficiency?
You know what? BioK is really good. If someone doesn't want to take a capsule, can't take a capsule, or can't open our capsules because they're enteric coated, and they want to do liquid, BioK is excellent. That is the one I do suggest if they're not going to go for a capsule form. So I can't speak to their potency studies or anything like that. I can only really talk about our stuff. But I know I recommend it if people don't want to take a capsule.
Only thing I can say is that it is only 2 strains. So they're 2 good strains, one bifido, one lactobacillus. But that would be the only negative. It is quite potent, and you have to be careful taking it. You don't take it all at once. You take a little bit, and then you take like a quarter of it, then you take a half, and then you take the full tub for a period of time. But you're only taking it for about 2 to 3 weeks. So
yeah.
That's it. I mean, and it is ready to rock because it's live, right? Because it's in an active state. So it's a good product. But you know, I'm interested in strains because there's so many in our intestinal tract. It's hard for any probiotic, right? Even at 10, to sort of match what's going on with us. That's kind of why I wanted to have Carolyn talk about the strains, because I want to know why they pick what they pick, because I think that would be very helpful for us to understand that.
Yeah, and you know what? On that question, and I'm really glad it got brought up, because just today we put out a fact sheet that we're sending out to stores to talk about Align, which is the one that is...
well, I sent that to them too.
Sorry?
I sent that to them too.
Excellent. Okay, so if you guys can look at that that sheet, how do these probiotics stack up? So here's a really good example. So Align, that's the one that doctors are prescribing, and they're prescribing it for people who have colitis and Crohn's and IBS, and it's basically pharmaceutical. So there's 10 million beneficial, million, not billion, million per capsule. It's only one strain, Bifidobacterium infantis, and they've patented that, and they've called it Bifantis. There's only 10 million strength. They've got binders, fillers, excipients in the capsule. There's no enteric coating, and the average retail price is about $39.99. So the price per billion is about $142. We went that far. Now, our Ultimate Flora colon care is $80 billion per capsule. It's got the Bifidobacterium infantis, same as theirs, okay, except we've got 200 million. So that's crazy. That's way, way stronger than theirs. But on top of that, we've also got other forms of Bifidobacterium as well as the lactobacillus. So it's 8,000 times more potent than Align. There's no binders, fillers, or excipients. It is enteric coated, so it's guaranteed to get to where it needs to go. It's only a little bit more expensive, but it works out to 2.1 cents per billion. So you can see it really does come down to comparing apples to apples. You know, it's really important that you're comparing the right thing. So that's why it's really, really important to read your labels. And on that note, I'm going to open up the first attachment for ultra potent. Can you guys see that okay?
It hasn't come up yet. We still have a couple more questions.
Okay, sure. Keep going.
Sorry. Are there any other foods or supplements that can enhance the effects of probiotics?
Eat more fiber. Fiber is what probiotics feed on. So fiber foods or pectin foods and fruits, like the skins and stuff like that, that's what probiotics like to feed on. So those are, if you give them the right food, then they're just going to start to repopulate, which is good.
And then Karen wants to know, for clients with severe candida who is resistant to changing their diet, do you feel that probiotics alone will bring their candida under control?
It can help. So here's the thing with candida. A healthy ratio of yeast in the body to good bacteria is 1 yeast to 1 million bacteria. Okay? So that's a massive ratio. For them to be able to get that under control, they're going to have to take massive doses. Now, the thing with candida, so many people are focused on the diet with candida, and a lot of people, they won't do it for whatever reason. We do have a kit called Candy Gone. It is designed to work regardless, but if you follow the diet, it's just going to work a lot faster. So I tell people, you wouldn't go to war and feed the other army. So think of it in those types of ways. Like, think of it, visualize it, and say, you know what, I'm not going to feed that other army. I'm going to starve it. And I always say, okay, you know what, it's not forever that you have to cut out these foods, but chances are that once they get through the cravings, once they get over the hump, then they're not going to want those foods so much anymore. Or when they do eat it again, it doesn't make them feel so great. So I know a lot of candida is psychological, been there, done that. But to be able to balance it through probiotics, they are going to have to take big, high doses to be able to get that balance back again. And if their symptom is a yeast infection, they would also, in addition to regular probiotic, they'd want to take the Ultimate Flora VS. And the reason they want to take both is because the VS is going to balance out the bacteria in the vaginal tract and deal with the actual yeast infection, but it's being caused by candida, which starts in the gut. So you need to balance it in the gut, so that's where the bifidobacteria are coming in, and the lactobacillus are going to help with the yeast infection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one question here with regard to what I said about BioK. Or Irene's asking, would you not take it all at once? Yeah, you do take it all at once, but you work up to it. These are the instructions from BioK, that you start with a quarter tub, then half a tub, and then do a full tub for a period of time. And then Morella has one question for you. Do you know about Probiotic, another brand recommended by pharmacists?
I have never heard of that one.
Me neither.
I will be researching that tomorrow.
Well, if you find something out, let me know, and I'll let everybody know.
Okay, Probiotic? How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. She's written it.
Not pronounced it, so I wrote it. How's it written?
PROBACLAC.
Yep. Okay. Okay, I'll check it tomorrow.
Thank you. All right.
Has the Ultimate Flora Ultra Potent come up?
No.
Okay, we might have to do this again. So hang on. Let me go back in. Let me get rid of this. Go back in here.
That's great lighting there. I can't believe
I'm in my office at work. Okay, let me just... Why is that one not coming up? Okay, probiotic.
You can see your desktop now.
Oh, there we go. Okay, product knowledge sheets. And if not, I think most people have the product knowledge sheets with them, so we can always talk to it in case this doesn't work. Okay, so Ultimate Flora, we're going to talk about the Ultra Potent first. Can you see that?
No, we're still seeing the long list of files.
Okay, let me close that. Can you see it now?
Well, we see you. Now you are screen sharing, right? The screen sharing thing is off.
Oh, is it off? Okay,
yeah.
Let me try this again.
Before you had a little green thing beside your name.
Okay, screen sharing.
Janice wants to know, can you tell me about how long this will go as I am at work? She's in Calgary.
Oh, okay. Oh, geez. Well, we're going to go through the actual product knowledge sheet. So as long as you have that, you can go through it at your leisure. But if there's just other questions as we're going through, I can answer that. So if you need to drop off the call right now, that's not a problem.
Yeah, you are going to get a replay of this anyway, sent to you automatically. So.
Oh, perfect. Okay, let me just try this one more time.
Marilla's saying, got a print when purchased antibiotics from Shoppers Drug Mart. You mean they were handing out some type of brochure, Marilla? For the Probiotic? Oh, there it is.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Okay, so all of these product knowledge sheets are exactly the same. And we've got these product knowledge sheets for every single solitary one of our products. And you can go onto our website, renewlife.ca, and you can download it. And you can also download the brochure. You can send your clients to this site so that they can download it, read it, and then come back into your office. So we do not sell direct to the public, so you can feel confident sending people to the site. So all of our product knowledge sheets are set up in the same way. So it talks about what is it. In this case, for our probiotics, we have that handy dandy chart. Then we talk about how is it delivered, what does it do, how does it work, how do I take it, what can I expect? And this is where all the magic is. So what does it contain? So it talks about all the different strains. Then we talk about on the right-hand side there, how much of each strain is in each capsule. Then we talk about the non-medicinal ingredients, the fact that it doesn't contain anything, all of our ingredients are non-GMO, talks about the warnings, and then there's references down at the bottom too. So you can look up any of those references as well. So we're going to talk about the different strains, and the one thing before we get into that, I want to talk about how probiotics are made, basically. A lot of people, when you see in the warning here, it says, do not use this product if you have a milk or soy allergy. Okay, we have never, ever, ever changed our formulas, ever. But that warning is new because Health Canada does not like the fact that probiotics are fermented in dairy. That is where they grow. That is their growth medium. That is what they like. We extract the probiotics from that growth medium. We can guarantee 110% of the time that there is no milk or dairy allergens in there in any way, shape, or form. But Health Canada does not care. So we do have to put this warning on the label. All probiotics that are manufactured this way, which is probably 95 to 99% of the market, we all get our probiotics from the same companies. So we all manufacture them the same way because that's the way it's done. So the way I like to get over that hurdle, because some people will still get freaked out, number one, probiotics help you actually break down dairy, so it's kind of ironic. And the second thing is, I tell people, okay, let's say you're allergic to grass, okay? You still eat beef, right? But the cow has eaten the grass. So you're not going to have the allergic reaction to the grass because it's been processed in a way through the cow that there's no more allergens present. It's a similar type of thing. So there's no allergens present, and we can test for it, but Health Canada will not budge. As a unified front, a whole bunch of companies have petitioned to get that off the label, but they won't budge. So we have to live with it. So when you see that warning, that's how you can explain it to your clients. All right. So there are two different strains, as we talked about. The resident strains are going to repopulate, and the transient strains are not. But they do a very important job as they go through. Now, most of the strains that we have in our formulas are the resident strains. They're the ones that are going to repopulate. So the bifidobacterium, studies show that disturbances of intestinal flora in connection with peristalsis disorders, which is the natural muscular movement of the colon, and liver problems are usually related to the restriction or disappearance of Bifidobacterium bifidum. It has the ability to protect the body against the devastation of rotavirus diarrhea, and it modifies the gut flora, and it's supportive therapy for intestinal infections and intestinal disturbances. Even more importantly, immune-strengthening properties have been reported in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, especially in relation to colon health and its suppressive effect on tumors. It reports that Bifidobacterium bifidum is well tolerated without side effects, reducing the inflammatory response of the colon and stimulating the body's fluid immunity. And so you can see in that formula, bifidum, we have quite a bit of bifidum in that one. So we've got 10 billion of the 100 billion. 10% of that is the Bifidobacterium bifidum. The Brev helps. Sorry.
And Health Canada let you put in that statement about the support of shrinking tumors?
See, that's not on the label. Okay, so we've been very, very creative. Companies are extremely creative in how they get their information out there. Health Canada cares about what's on the label. They're not as concerned about the collateral that we put out there Until one day, maybe I'm talking about this and some Health Canada guy sitting in the audience and takes me to task for it. But we have a lot more leniency when we're doing stuff like this, because if there's studies behind it, then we can talk a little more openly about it. But whether to put it on a label or not, they're extremely strict about labels.
Well, that's good to know. That's really good to know that that we can get more information like this, because this is the kind of stuff that we want to see, right?
Yeah, it depends on how creative we get. Believe me, it's been interesting.
And if we wanted to get the actual study that's quoted there, if we contacted RENEWLIFE, could they send us the reference?
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent.
No problem. And the thing with all of our products too is if you ever want a certificate of analysis, you can always request that. We are completely open book. So if you ever need or want anything, you can just contact myself and I'll direct it to the right person.
Okay, Lori's asking if colon hydrotherapy disturbs the bacteria balance in the colon. Should you take up or a certain amount of probiotics when undertaking colon hydrotherapy?
Yeah, colon hydrotherapy can actually flush the bacteria out. So most good colon hydrotherapies will reintroduce good bacteria as they're doing colon hydrotherapy. So I think that's very, very important. But certainly, increasing your probiotics while you're doing that too is great, because as you're flushing out the bad stuff, get the good stuff in there as quick as you can. All right, so the Bifidobacterium breve helps decrease intestinal permeability, improves intestinal microflora, and has a positive effect on the intestinal immune system. And that one, the breve, we've got 20 billion, so quite a bit of that one in there. So it's going to really help with the immune system as well. The longum helps in the formation of lactic acid along with small amounts of formic acid, which lowers the pH of the intestines, making the region undesirable for harmful bacteria. It's also a substantial producer of B vitamins, which is extremely important for people who have colitis and Crohn's, who are having problems producing their B vitamins because maybe they don't have as much of their colon as they used to. So the Bifidobacterium longum is much higher in the bowel care formula, which we're going to get to next. So that's the one that we suggest for people who have IBS, Crohn's, and colitis.
Rhoda wants to know if there's one recommended for fatty liver disease, or what do you suggest?
For fatty liver disease, what I would do for that one is I would do liver cleansing. I would cleanse the liver, and I would look to try to balance the enzymes and get the liver functioning more optimally. More optimally, is that a word? I would do that, and then I would just take probably Ultimate Flora Critical Care. The 50 billion is probably going to be okay for that. But certainly look to cleanse the liver, lots of fiber to help soak up and sweep out the toxins in the liver. I know doctors say, oh, cut down the fat in your diet, when in fact it's usually not fat that's causing fatty liver, it's actually sugar. So look to the diet too. Make sure that they don't have a lot of sugar in their diet. All right. Okay, so Lactobacillus acidophilus, that's the one we hear about a lot, and that's the predominant friendly bacteria in the upper intestinal tract, so that is in the small intestine. It helps reduce the levels of harmful bacteria and yeast in the small intestine. It also produces lactase, which, guess what, helps break down lactose. So it's good for people who have issues with breaking down milk. It's an enzyme which is important in the digestion of milk, and acidophilus is involved in the production of B vitamins, niacin, folic acid, and pyridoxine during the digestive process. And this is the most prevalent strain in the body. Now the Lactobacillus casei, that's the one that helps with E. coli as well as being effective against urinary tract infections. So you'll see that a lot in our vaginal support product. Lactobacillus rhamnosus, it's useful for the inhibition of vaginal and urinary tract infections. It helps the body resist pathogenic bacteria and viruses and prevents rotaviral and Clostridium difficile induced diarrhea. So that is a good one. If someone has C. difficile, they might want to take this alongside the Boulardii Max. So we'll get to that in a moment. The Lactobacillus salivarius is useful in helping impair the growth and activity of harmful pathogenic bacteria, including H. pylori, Salmonella, and it also helps to break down undigested protein and disengage the toxins produced by protein putrefaction. Okay, so that one is probably good for people who are, and this is why this one in particular, so the salivarius, there's 250 million in there. This is why this one is good for people who have severe digestive issues, that just, they have problems breaking down all food all the time, no matter what. Even on top of taking a digestive enzyme, maybe they're still having problems. This is the formula that we tell people to take. Now the transient strains, these are the outside source ones. We've got the Lactobacillus fermentum, which is capable of releasing glutathione and has been shown to prevent colonic inflammation such as colitis in animal studies. And glutathione is a really, really powerful antioxidant. So again, when we're talking about cancer, I know that glutathione is sometimes used in cancer therapy. So if someone is going to take a probiotic formula, you want to be looking, if they've got cancer, the fermentum is the one that would really be good for them. And last but not least, the Lactobacillus plantarum. And this is the one that we have a lot of in this formula. It's an excellent alternative to antibiotics. It makes use of its potential to block receptor sites for gram-negative bacteria, and it's capable of metabolizing semi-resistant fibers such as onion, garlic, artichoke, wheat, oat, rye, bananas, and yeast. And it's also an important tool in antimicrobial defense, and its effect both against extra and intercellular pathogens. So the Lactobacillus plantarum, that makes up most of this formula. Well, not most. It is probably the one we've got the most of in this formula. So almost 20% of it is the Lactobacillus plantarum. Okay, so that's basically all the different product knowledge sheets and how they're set up. I just want to quickly go through a couple other ones, and I guess I'm going to have to go through.
We have 3 questions, though, first.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Dana's asking, if one has a horrible beige diet or was fasting or whatever, where the intake of fiber and nutrients was low, would resistant bacteria die off completely or just reduce along with transient bacteria?
So I'm to understand they don't have a lot of fiber in their diet?
Correct.
Yeah, so there just won't be as much food to feed the good bacteria. So yeah, their numbers would probably die off. So if anything, we've got a clear fiber product that it's organic clear fiber, and it's acacia fiber. That's all it is, and it's organic. And you can mix it into food. You can mix it into water, tea, coffee, whatever. It does not taste like anything, and it is soluble fiber. And that's what feeds them. So if nothing else, get that into their regimen, and that's going to at least get the fiber going through their body, which is really important. But also it's going to help feed the the good bacteria.
And residential bacteria never dies off completely, or else you die, right?
It can if you take take antibiotics. And so with antibiotics, for every round of antibiotic you take, it's going to kill off probiotics as well. So some will die off for a few weeks, some will die off for a few months, some will take years, some will die off forever unless you repopulate again. And that's why it's really important to be supplementing with probiotics when you're doing antibiotics. But your natural population of probiotics does start to decline as you get older. And of course, stress kills it off, poor diet kills it off. So there's a few things that will kill off your probiotic population. And the list, I think the list was in there earlier of what causes dysbiosis. So read through that list, and those are the things that can throw it off. The antibiotics, the stress, the poor diet, those types of things.
Okay, Erin would like to know, you explained why the milk warning is on the label, but where is the soy used in the manufacturing?
The soy was used, where is it? I think it was in the coating. That part, I need to find out from quality control to figure out what exactly it is. I think it's in the aqueous enteric coating. And I think it was, it had to do with vitamin E. But let me double check on that for you. Yeah, that's the one. It had to do with in the fermentation process. I can't remember exactly what it is, if it's in the enteric coating or if it was just during fermentation. And so let me get back to you on that, though. If you can send me that in an email, that would be great, Lorraine.
Okay, I will do that. And then I'll send it out to everybody. And then Lori wants to know, for clients who have had portions of their bowels removed due to she's got HX, so I don't know what that stands for, is a bowel disease, what would the product would you recommend?
Okay, people who have no bowel. So think of the bowel as a water treatment plant. So what the bowel does is it recycles water back to the body. What's left over is waste. And as the waste is moving through the bowel, it starts to dry out. The water's going back to the body. If they don't have a lot of their colon, so let's say they've got Crohn's disease and they've had to have most of their colon taken out, or let's say they're on a colostomy bag, probiotics are really not going to do a lot of good for them if they don't have their colon, because most of those bifidobacteria live in the colon. If they don't have their colon, they're going to have problems. So they're going to have to use a much less potent formula. So maybe the 2 billion is the one that they would take. So the ultimate, so the Flora Smart, maybe the 2 billion is the one that they would take, because they're kind of wasting their money, I guess, literally. They're flushing it down the toilet. If they take a strong formula, their bodies are not going to be able to handle it, because their main concern at that point is going to be diarrhea, because their colon isn't able to recycle the water and they just have constant diarrhea. So for them, I would say a low dose formula for sure.
Okay. So,
all right. Let me see if I can get the, if I click on something else. Can you see the critical care? Did that come up?
Ultimate Flora Potent. It's still on the screen.
Still there. Okay, so let me see if I can pick up the critical care here. Oh, there we go. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do the colon care first. Hopefully that one comes up. Did that just come up?
Yes.
Good. Yay. Okay. Woo. I'm getting this now. Now, we won't go through the rest of the stuff, but you'll see that a lot of the strains are similar. Okay? However, over here, in each capsule contains, you'll notice that it's formulated a little differently. This one also has that Bifidobacterium infantis that we were just talking about that was in the Align. So the Bifidobacterium infantis is the main inhabitant in the intestines of children. And Bifidobacterium infantis also has benefits into adulthood and has been shown to help reduce the symptoms associated with IBS. Okay, so this formula is a little bit different. And we've also got Paracasey and Casey. So the Lactobacillus casei inhibits growth of E. coli, is effective against urinary tract infections. Oh no, it is in the other one. The Paracasey expands the natural killer cell population, therefore may enhance immune defense against viral infections or tumors, and also has an anti-inflammatory effect. So this one has strains. The Plantarum has a lot of that too, but this one has a lot of strains that are going to help deal with inflammation in the intestinal tract, because someone with Crohn's and colitis, certainly they have inflammatory bowel disease. So some of these strains are very, very good for inflammation in the intestinal tract. Okay, so that's So again, you can read that at your leisure, but a lot of the strains are similar to what we just had. It's just the way we formulated it over here is just a little bit different. The next one I want to look at is the critical care. Did that come up?
Not yet.
Not yet.
There it is.
Okay. Now this is the standard one. This is the one that I would call the multivitamin. This is the one that most people would take every day. It's 50 billion. Again, similar strains. Just the way that it is formulated is a little different. Okay, it's got 2 of the transient strains in there, and the rest of the 8 other ones are the resident strains. So it's a pretty good balance of both bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. It's about a 50-50 ratio of those. Okay. The next one I want to look at is the vaginal support. Okay, is it up?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Now, this one is completely different. And you'll see the strains along the right-hand side there is mostly lactobacillus. Okay, so those are the ones that are primarily found in the urinary and vaginal tract. And so that's why those ones have been chosen. So the Lactobacillus bulgaricus is a genus of beneficial microbacteria that live in the human body and are usually present in the gastrointestinal tracts and the vagina. And Lactobacillus bulgaricus is a lactic acid producing bacteria found in yogurt, and that's helpful for those with lactose intolerance, diarrhea, and also the immunity. It also helps to promote the growth of other beneficial bacteria and helps, as a result, helps to maintain a healthy immune system. It may also help the body to metabolize lipids and maintain healthy cholesterol levels. Because Lactobacillus bulgaricus has antibiotic properties, it can help prevent infections and prevent the proliferation of pathogenic microorganisms in the gut. So if women have yeast infections in relation to candida, this is the product that they would take. Pregnant women, this is the one that they would take too. But alongside of that, for the candida ladies, you would definitely want them to take a regular probiotic too, so either the 50 billion or the 100 billion, to get the balance back to normal in the gut, because that is where candida starts. But the rest are about the same, the strains. Yeah, the strains are the same. Again, it's just the way we formulated it is going to be different for whatever problem that people happen to have. Now, last but not least, before I let you guys go or answer any more questions and then let you go, I want to talk about Blarty Max, because I really believe this is a product that is going to help so many people. On top of regular probiotics, this is something that's considered a probiotic, but it's technically a friendly form of yeast. It helps with things like C. difficile, H. pylori, and diarrhea, no matter why someone has it. So on the first page, on the front side of that, it helps to treat serious bacterial infections such as C. difficile, and Saccharomyces boulardii suppresses bacterial infection in 3 ways. So it inhibits adhesion and overgrowth of bacteria. It produces a serine protease that cleaves the C. difficile toxin, and it stimulates antibody production against this toxin. So this is great for people who are going into hospital or a long-term care facility, or if you are visiting somebody who happens to be in one of these places and you want to make sure that you're okay. This is certainly going to help with C. diff. For those who have H. pylori, which causes the heartburn, nausea, bloating, belching, those types of things, research shows that Saccharomyces boulardii is an effective addition to H. pylori treatment. It also helps to prevent diarrhea from standard H. pylori antibiotic treatment, which is a common side effect. And last but not least, it helps effectively treat and prevent diarrhea from antibiotic use, bacterial infections, traveling, inflammation in the bowel. It doesn't matter why you have the diarrhea, this is going to help. So if it's a condition like IBS, where they are just constantly having issues with diarrhea, this is something that they can take ongoing. If it's a condition that they only get the diarrhea every now and again, then they would only take it as needed. If someone's traveling, I would say take it about 3 days before they go away, because this is a transient strain. It will not repopulate. So get it built up in the system. It will live in your body for 3 or 4 days. Get it built up in your system before you go away so that you don't get the diarrhea when you're down there. Think of it like an Imodium, and it works quickly. You will notice results within about an hour. And so it's very, very effective if someone gets food poisoning. I'm on the road a ton, and I can't begin to tell you how often I end up feeling like I gotta go because of some sort of food poisoning. And so I keep this in my purse at all times because it has helped me out often. And I can tell you for a fact that it works very quickly. So if you look down, you'll see that it's only 10 billion Saccharomyces boulardii. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. And it talks about how it works there. Now, children 6 and up to adults, they can take 1 capsule per day, approximately 2 hours after food. Again, it does not matter when you take it. Health Canada wanted us to put that on there. But it really does not matter when you take it because it is not affected by stomach acid. And it says do not exceed 10 capsules per day. If you need to take up to 10 capsules per day, there is something very wrong and you should get to a hospital. So for those unable to swallow capsules, you can open up the capsule. You can mix it with water, milk, juice, applesauce, yogurt. It doesn't matter. It is not going to be affected if you open it up like you would with the other capsules. All right? So that is that's the Boulardii Max. So that's something that I hope that people are a little more familiar with. I know that doctors are starting to become aware of Saccharomyces boulardii. Hospitals are becoming aware of pharmacies, and they are actually turning to our product because it is the strongest on the market. And the price point is very, very low. So the retail on the Saccharomyces boulardii, the suggested retail price is $21.99. So it's not a very expensive product at all. And I guess last but not least, let's just quickly touch on Flora Baby. There's Flora Bear. Let me.
Dana has a question.
Yep.
She notices that on all the RENEWLIFE not all of the RENEWLIFE products contain FOS. So why is it in some and not in others? And she says, I'm aware that some people have difficulty with FOS causing bloating and gas as it is food for the probiotic.
Right. It is in a small amount. So most people who have problems with FOS don't tend to have a problem with this unless they are super, super sensitive, in which case then our product isn't going to be for them. Not all formulas are going to need the FOS. In our high potency formulas, we certainly do have the FOS. In Boulardii Max, we don't need to because they don't feed off of that. But in all of our other formulas, we do. I don't think we have it in our extra strength and our FloraSmart extra strength and FloraSmart regular strength. Again, because they're freeze dried, so they're not active at that point. And the Flora Bear and Flora Baby, they don't. The Flora Bear does. That's the chewable, but the Flora Baby does not. So it just depends on how it's being delivered, but the high potency ones do all have it.
And Naomi's asking, do you think Boulardii Max could be helpful for travel sickness, like for nausea?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Anybody who's got diarrhea, there's another product of ours, and I know I keep kind of digressing, but because we're a digestive care company, we kind of have a lot of products that are specific to that. So if someone is traveling and they've got nausea, we've got a really, really good product called Intestinal Bowel Soother. An Intestinal Bowel Soother is it's a pretty simple product. Sorry, I'm just getting it out of my drawer because I literally have it at my desk. It has golden seal, turmeric, and ginger. So that's what it has in quite a potent formula, but it also has a proprietary Chinese herbal blend, which has been used in studies to show that it's helpful for people with IBS. So this product is really good for cramping, spasming, nausea. When my brother-in-law passed away a couple of years ago, and none of us were hungry enough to eat in the slightest. But I thought, you know what, we have to eat something. So I started taking intestinal bowel soother and giving it to my family, and we were all able to get our stomach settled enough to be able to eat something, which was good. So this is something I also take. I keep this next to my Blarty Max in my purse because when I do feel sick on the road, when I have maybe come in contact with something that's not sitting well in my tummy, then this really gets me out of a bind because I've gone to a place where I have to give a lecture. I can't not do it. So I need to get back on track quickly. And that's where intestinal bowel soother can also help in conjunction with the Blarty Max. So it helps with the nausea and the diarrhea.
Okay, Janine is asking for the Blarty Max, what is the length of time for the course of treatment? And also, does it destroy the C. difficile toxin or just weaken it so the toxin remains in the intestine?
It will cleave the toxin, so it breaks the toxin, and then it will help it die off. But if someone has C. diff and they're put on medications to get rid of it, this can be used alongside it. That's not a problem. Same with H. pylori. If someone is put on antibiotics to kill off the H. pylori, they can take the Blarty Max alongside it. It is not going to affect the medication. So that's the first thing. It's also not affected by antibiotics, which is great as well. So they can take it alongside. How long the course is depends on whether it's a condition like IBS. If it's IBS and people have diarrhea ongoing, then they would take it ongoing. But if someone's going on a trip, they would take it a few days before they go, take it while they're away, and I would say finish up the bottle, which is 30 days. So a 30-day course is usually enough for most people. My sister runs an in-home daycare, and she keeps it on hand at all times to give the kids if they happen to get diarrhea. So it's one of those things that, for the most part, you take it as needed, unless you have a condition where you have to take it ongoing. Any other questions before I go on?
That's it for right now.
All right, perfect. All right, so the last one I really want to touch on is the Flora Baby, and this is the one that they just used in that study, and I think that you had also sent that study out. Did you not, Lorraine?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Okay, so that was really, really exciting for us, and so it was nice to kind of almost be validated, which we probably all know on this call here, how good probiotics are and how good they are for infants as well. But you know, Health Canada, we know, errs very strongly on the side of caution. So it's nice that we might be able to get that one and over off the label. Okay, so now if you look at these strains, you will notice that they're pretty different, that there's some different strains in here. So the Bifidobacterium breve is the oral administration of Bifidobacterium breve in infants significantly decreased rotavirus shedding in stool samples and prevented rotavirus infection. It has also been shown to help decrease intestinal permeability, which is leaky gut, and babies are naturally born with leaky gut. It improves intestinal microflora and has a positive effect on the intestinal immune system. The bifidum is a resident symbiotic bacteria in the colon, and it's important in the production of the B vitamins. Of course, you know, as the baby's growing, that's very, very important. It's also particularly good at enhancing the body's immune response and inhibiting harmful bacteria. So again, it's helping to teach the baby's immune system, okay, this is good, this isn't good. The infantis, that's the main inhabitant in the intestines of infants, but only in those who have been breastfed. Children who have not been breastfed do not receive that benefit of this probiotic because in adults, there's hardly any. So the Bifidobacterium infantis, if you have a mother that cannot breastfeed for whatever reason, make sure that you give her the Flora Baby and that the baby is getting this infantis. So when it's lacking, allergies, malabsorption of nutrients can become a problem, which can continue on throughout childhood. So we see it all the time. There's more and more kids with allergies every day. The longum is the most frequently found species in healthy breastfed infants. It helps in the formation of lactic acid along with small amounts of formic acid. It lowers the pH of the intestines, which of course makes it undesirable for harmful bacteria and helps to produce the B vitamins. And then the transient strain that we have in here again is the rhamnosus. It helps the body resist pathogenic bacteria and viruses, prevents rotaviral or Clostridium difficile induced diarrhea, and it's also useful for the inhibition of vaginal and urinary tract infections, which are also common during early childhood. So you can see the amounts that we have in this blend. There's 4 billion in total. Most of it is the Brev, and then followed very closely by the rhamnosus. Okay, so that's the powder. You can mix it in. It'll say up here, how is it delivered? How does it work? How do you take it? Okay, so 1 to 18 years. A lot of children over, maybe 12 or 13 are moving on to an adult formula anyway. So after 18 years of age, Flora Smart, which is the 2 billion, is recommended, and the ultimate Flora as well is recommended. It really depends on what's going on with the child, and if they're having major issues and a lot of dysbiosis going on, they might need to take one of the, an ultra potent, sorry, not the ultra potent, the 50 billion critical care. I just want to make sure. Yeah, adults, adolescents, and children 6 years and older, they can take that, the critical care, which is the 50 billion. So it really depends on what's going on in their guts, and how quickly and how urgently you need to get that bacteria back in balance. And the Flora Bear for children, that is a chewable probiotic. So it tastes like orange, and that's something that kids can take every day once they get past the powdered stage. But if they want to stick to the Flora Baby, then they can. That's not a problem.
Okay, we have a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Are the RENEWLIFE products suitable for someone with active ulcerative colitis during a flare-up when they're on meds or the colitis?
Yes. Yes. So there's a couple of things that they could take. The intestinal bowel soother is going to help deal with the inflammation and the cramping and any other issues they may have with that. And I would definitely suggest the bowel care formula to help get the bacteria back in balance. My stepmom has ulcerative colitis, which isn't the same as Crohn's, but it's very, very close. And that's what she takes every day. And she also takes the Intestinal. And the Intestinal really helps to deal with, again, the inflammation. It's soothing. It helps to rebuild and repair the intestinal tract. With Crohn's and colitis, they say that you can't cure it, and once you have it, that's it. But you can do things to manage it. And one of the things I think sets it off the most is diet. So wheat and corn, those are, and dairy, those are really big ones for them. But stress is huge. So make sure you're looking at those sorts of things as well. Look to the diet, look to their stress levels, and try to get them to, yoga, meditate, deep breathing, something like that. But as far as the probiotic goes, the bowel care, Intestinal to rebuild and repair, and intestinal bowel soother to help with the symptoms of the cramping and spasming.
Okay, and Laura,
that would be the same protocol for IBS, Crohn's, and colitis, by the way.
Okay. Thank you. So Lori would like to know, would this product, the baby probiotic, be particularly good for babies who are being immunized?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I would definitely say so. Doctors are probably not going to agree with that, but I would think that you want to give the baby the best possible chance it can when it's going to be infected by these inoculations. Like, they're going to get a virus injected into them. So you want their immune system to be good and strong and be able to recognize it and be able to take care of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great use for probiotics for babies.
Yeah.
kind of makes you wonder what might be prevented if it's happening with all vaccinations in kids. But anyway.
I know.
Okay, so if you have any more questions, type them in. I have one question. Well, we wait because I know there's a bit of delay, and if you don't have any questions, we'll wrap this up. But anyway, my question is, do you remember the days when the probiotics were like 4 billion and 8 billion and etc.? What I've always wanted to know, sort of where the research came from that made them go to 50 billion, 100 billion, 30 billion, 75 billion. Is there a simple answer for that?
I think it's just because they're starting to pay attention to what's happening in the gut, and they call the gut the forgotten organ. And I don't know if people know this, but 80% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut, not in your brain. So as they're making these discoveries, they're starting to put together formulas to help deal with certain conditions, and they're starting to realize, okay, you know, we can get much stronger. When there's 100 trillion bacteria in your body, 100 billion is a drop in the bucket, basically. In Canada, you're never going to see anything more than 100 billion. Health Canada's, you know, topped it at that. But in the States, they've got ones that are 450 billion. So when I'm on the road, I've been to like trade shows and stuff like that where there's a lot of germs going around, there's a lot of stress, and I will take up to 400 to 500 billion a day. And I don't get loose stools. My trigger would be, if I knew I was taking too much, would be loose stools. But by keeping the high dose of probiotics, the stress is killing it off as fast as I'm putting them in. So for me, I know myself well enough to know that I can do higher doses. I don't need to do it all the time, but that's personal for me. So I say for you guys out there, you know, playing around with it for yourselves, that's great. But some customers, some clients of yours might need a little extra support at certain times. Maybe they're under a lot of stress, which again is one of the biggest ones that kills them off. Maybe that candida person is just so overwhelmed with candida that maybe they need the higher doses for a little while and then back it off. So it's I guess it's the experimentation, it's the studies that are coming out. Now there's the founder of RENEWLIFE, Brenda Watson, she's coming up with a book in the fall that's talking about how the gut bacteria affect weight and how it affects weight gain and weight loss, and how they're using mice to prove these theories. So there's just so much, you know, information and so many studies being done now, and it's like the universe. Like, you're just like, wow, it's like a whole separate universe inside our bodies. And we need to kind of work with these probiotics we need to keep them happy as much as they're trying to keep us happy.
Sounds like a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite impressed with a lot of the research that's coming out these days. Okay, so we have two questions here. One from Christina. For leaky gut, would you recommend the colon care probiotic or the critical care at 50 billion?
Leaky gut, I would say the colon care might be a bit better because there's more of a anti-inflammatory strain in there, one that helps with inflammation. So leaky gut, I would do the bowel care, I would do Intestinal, and I would also do a fish oil to help with inflammation as well. So we've got Ultra EPA, which is 1,000 milligrams of EPA per capsule.
A bit. And then Karen, this is the follow-up to the immunization and the babies and the probiotics. She wants to know if you should do it before they're vaccinated or start them on it before they're vaccinated.
Yeah, I'd want to get the probiotics in there so that they're ready, so that their immune systems have a chance, you know, to recognize what's going to be coming in the body and be able to deal with it. So yeah, I would definitely say before.
Okay, and Deb just said she lost her audio, but I don't know if she's the only one. Is anyone else? Whoops. Lost audio. Sorry. Okay, so assuming others have not lost audio, do we have any more questions? And let's give them a couple of seconds. I'm always curious about the aging. Refreshing her page, fixed it the second time. Okay, she's fine. Never mind.
Okay.
I'm always curious about the aging situation where they say that, you know, you lose it because of aging. Is it because we're aging, or is it because the totality of the horrible way we've treated our poor gut has caught up with us?
I think it's both. I think they're probably dying off a whole lot faster now than they did years ago when we used to eat fermented foods and our lifestyles weren't as stressful. So I'm sure it's happening at a faster rate.
All right, so if you have any more questions, because we're going to sign off now, you can just email me. And thank you, Karen says, great presentation. You can just email me, and I can forward them to Carolyn for answers. Okay. And and do you have a problem, Caroline, for me sending them the PDF of the PowerPoint?
Oh, not at all. No,
Okay.
go ahead.
So
And
I
you
will
can share with your clients too. That's okay.
Okay. So I will send out I'll wait for Caroline to give me the answers about the soy and the Probaclac, and then I will send the PDF out all at the same time, so that you have a copy of the presentation as well.
Perfect.
All right. So,
Bye.
saying very informative presentation. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Caroline, for this. This was fabulous. And we're going to probably, she and I are going to talk about doing some other topics that we'll probably do in the fall or so. And because I think this is really helpful for all of us. And this has been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. And good night, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.